So I want you to imagine for a second that your car is making this terrifying metal on metal grinding noise.
Oh, like every single time you shift gears.
Yeah, exactly. I'm talking about a really deep, structural, just bone-rattling sound that vibrates all the way up through the floorboards.
Right, the kind you can feel in your teeth.
Yes.
Yeah.
So what do? You take it in for like a premium top-tier detail job.
Naturally.
You get the seats shampooed, a fresh coat of wax. They even hang a little pine tree air freshener from the rearview mirror.
And it smells great.
Right. The car looks incredible. You drive it off the lot feeling amazing. And then 3 blocks later, the transmission completely drops out of the bottom and scatters across the intersection.
Because it's a shiny car that still doesn't run. I mean, you treated the surface, you made the environment smell nice, but you completely ignored the shattered engine block.
Exactly. And that terrifying realization is kind of exactly what we are untangling today on this deep dive.
It is, because we see this exact same dynamic play out in relationships all the time.
Right. So we are focusing on you, the listener, and a really common, but honestly, potentially disastrous confusion that happens when we try to maintain or repair our relationships.
We're dissecting two things that sound incredibly similar on paper. I mean, the terminology is so close that the industry uses them interchangeably.
Which is wild, right? We're talking about the marriage retreat versus the marriage intensive.
Yes, and confusing a retreat with an intensive is exactly like your car analogy. Couples might sign up for one experience, but desperately need the other.
And when they inevitably don't get the outcome they expected, they don't usually blame the wrong tool.
No, they assume the relationship itself is unfixable, which is a total tragedy.
Okay, let's unpack this. Because if you book the wrong trip, you aren't just setting yourself up for disappointment. You might actually be accelerating the end of your relationship.
Well, it fundamentally comes down to differing psychological goals.
Hmm.
Right? A marriage retreat is designed for inspiration.
Inspiration, got it.
Yeah, it's built for connection, for refreshment, taking a collective breath. But a marriage intensive is designed for transformation.
So repair and breakthrough.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's built for doing the deep, often really grueling neurological and emotional work.
So the goal today is to equip you to understand why some marriages need so much more than just, a lovely vacation with a charismatic speaker.
And a couple of really nice dinners.
Right. So to understand why couples end up walking down the wrong path so often, we really have to look at the mechanics of a standard marriage retreat.
Because they do sound amazing, I won't lie.
Oh, absolutely. If I'm scrolling through my phone on a stressful Tuesday, a retreat looks like the ultimate lifeline. Let's talk about the necessity of pressing pause.
Yeah, the mechanics of a retreat are entirely built around this concept of schedule fatigue.
Which we all have.
Completely. Modern life is essentially a constant low-grade drip of cortisol.
The stress hormone.
Yes. Between, endless emails, managing the kids' schedules, navigating mortgage rates, people are just stressed.
The overwhelming pressure of just existing.
Right. Couples spend years in this mild state of fight or flight. So a retreat acts as a temporary parasympathetic shift.
It forces the nervous system to just calm down.
Exactly.
Which makes total sense when you look at the itinerary of these events. I mean, a retreat is a tool for reconnection through distraction and relaxation.
You're usually looking at larger groups, right?
Yeah, sometimes 50 to 100 couples.
Mm-hmm.
There are fun activities. You go zip.
You get dedicated, kid-free date nights, which is huge.
Huge. And interspersed through all of this fun is general teaching. Someone gets up on a stage with a microphone in a big hotel ballroom.
And they talk broadly about communication styles or intimacy or parenting.
Right. It operates as a pressure release valve.
The environment is essentially engineered to remove the daily friction, so you can simply remember that you actually like the person sitting next to you.
But, okay, if I'm sitting in my car listening to this, I have to play devil's advocate for a second.
Go for it.
Let's say a couple is in a really tough spot. They go on one of these retreats, the kids are gone, the emails are off, they are holding hands again on a sunset cruise,
Right.
and they are laughing at dinner for the first time in 6 months. Isn't that enough? I mean, doesn't that positive behavioral momentum naturally carry over and fix the underlying issues?
What's fascinating here is that it looks like enough on the surface, which is exactly why it's so dangerous to confuse the two.
Oh, interesting.
You have to separate the psychology of the environment from the psychology of behavior.
Mm.
For healthy couples, just getting out of the house is enough to remind them of their baseline.
Right.
But the critical limitation of a retreat is its scale. Because it's built for broad audiences, The teaching has to remain generalized.
Meaning it's not personalized to your specific fights.
Exactly. A keynote speech on using I feel statements is inspirational, sure, but it does not deregulate a traumatized nervous system.
Okay, so it feels like we're talking about giving a massive dose of painkillers to someone with a compound fracture in their ankle.
It is a perfect analogy.
Right, because the painkiller is the retreat. It makes you feel incredible. The pain is totally gone.
You might even feel so good that you decide to go for a run on the beach with your partner.
Yeah, but because the bone was never actually reset, because you didn't do the excruciating work of realigning the fracture running on it, while numb actually causes catastrophic structural damage.
That captures the danger perfectly. The temporary relief masks the active destruction.
Wow.
If a relationship is dealing with infidelity, a zip line won't cure it. A generalized seminar cannot resolve years of buried resentment.
Or profound emotional disconnection.
Or sexual trauma. I mean, a retreat is completely unequipped to handle addiction, abuse patterns, or severe communication breakdowns.
You mean those situations where couples literally cannot speak to each other without triggering an active trauma response?
Exactly. Deep trust fractures are just not solved by a nice dinner and a motivational speech.
So if a retreat is just pressing pause and painkillers don't fix the broken bone, what happens when a couple needs to actually rebuild the engine?
Well, that brings us to the necessity of the intensive.
Okay, here's where it gets really interesting. Because the format is such a stark contrast.
It's a completely different paradigm.
Yeah.
We're no longer talking about escaping your daily life.
Right, we aren't talking about a ballroom full of 100 couples anymore.
No, we are talking about aggressively confronting what is actually damaging the marriage. Intensives are intentionally small, sometimes uncomfortably intimate,
Like maybe 5 couples. Or 10.
often less. Frequently, it is just a one-on-one format, just you, your partner, and a team of clinical professionals.
Wow, just one couple and a clinical team.
There is a very specific neurobiological reason for that scaling down. True healing of deep relational wounds requires absolute safety.
And you can't get that in a crowd.
No. When a relationship is in severe distress, the brain literally categorizes the partner as a threat.
Right, you're in survival mode.
Exactly. You cannot simply tell a nervous system to stand down during a 45-minute breakout session in a ballroom. Restoring safety requires extreme vulnerability, radical honesty, and above all, time.
The contrast is jarring, honestly.
Mm.
At a retreat, you might hear a moving message, cry for 20 minutes, feel a rush of emotion, and, hug your partner.
It's very surface-level catharsis.
Right. But at an intensive, you might spend 4 uninterrupted hours sitting in a small room unpacking exactly why you stopped trusting each other 8 years ago on a random Tuesday.
And that is the dividing line between inspiration and transformation.
4 hours, though. Why does it take 4 uninterrupted hours?
Because the first hour is often just navigating the ego's defense mechanisms.
Ah, the walls.
Exactly. The second hour is exhausting the anger and the deflection. The third hour is when the exhaustion finally gives way to actual vulnerability.
So you need that much time just to tire out the defenses.
You have to systematically dismantle the armor before you can even touch the actual wound. You are doing highly guided conflict resolution work.
Real-time trauma processing.
Yes. It is structured, targeted, and clinical.
But listen, as you describe that process, dismantling the armor, exhausting the anger, I have to admit, that sounds completely terrifying.
It is. It's emotionally draining.
Right. So if a couple is already hanging by a thread and they go into a room and drag up 8 years of buried pain, doesn't that risk making things worse?
That's a very common fear.
Couldn't the sheer weight of that confrontation just snap the thread entirely?
If we connect this to the bigger picture, that fear is exactly why people avoid intensives. But we have to look at the nature of healing itself.
Okay, how so?
Yes, intensives are incredibly uncomfortable, but growth is profoundly uncomfortable. Radical honesty feels like a threat when you've survived on secrets and silence.
Sure.
But consider the alternative. Avoidance, the act of not dragging up the pain,
Yeah.
that daily routine of keeping the peace by walking on eggshells, is the exact mechanism that got the couple disconnected in the first place.
Okay, so the avoidance isn't keeping the peace. The avoidance is the actual poison.
The silence is what's killing the relationship. Going to an intensive requires a massive mindset shift.
From let's escape to what?
You have to move from saying, let's escape our problems for a weekend, to saying, let's lock the door, stay in the room, face the problems, and extract them.
You aren't dragging up pain just to roll around in it.
No, you are dragging it up to finally process it, metabolize it, and move it out of your nervous system permanently.
You're resetting the broken bone. It's going to hurt worse in that specific moment, but it's the only way you'll ever walk normally again.
Exactly. The sting is proof you're actually reaching the infection. If you don't feel the discomfort, you're just washing the surrounding skin.
This contrast between escaping the pain and actually metabolizing the pain brings up what I think is the most dangerous trap couples fall into.
Oh, definitely.
When they start looking for help, they fall for the illusion of the destination. Let's talk about the scenery trap.
The scenery trap is so heavily reinforced by our culture. We are sold this idea that paradise equals internal peace.
Right, if the background is beautiful, the relationship must be beautiful.
Exactly.
You see these targeted ads for luxury resorts, pristine beaches, gorgeous isolated cabins up in the mountains. And look, luxury is wonderful.
Who doesn't want to wake up in a beachfront villa?
I know I do. But the reality of relying on scenery for healing is incredibly bleak.
It really is.
You can fly to Bali, take incredibly cute smiling photos for your social media feed, and still have absolutely no idea how to communicate with each other once the camera goes away.
You can go to the public group sessions and hold hands for the crowd, but then completely avoid eye contact when you get back to the deafening silence of your hotel room.
It's chilling. I want you, the listener, to just imagine that feeling for a second. Imagine sitting in literal paradise, the sun is setting, the ocean is right there, and feeling entirely suffocatingly alone.
It is cognitive dissonance at its absolute peak.
Yeah.
The outside environment is screaming that you should be joyful and relaxed.
But your internal reality is fractured and terrified.
Yes. This proves the fundamental rule. Scenery alone cannot repair broken trust. A white sand beach does not know how to facilitate a trauma conversation.
The ocean cannot teach you how to regulate your partner's nervous system.
Absolutely not.
And this leads directly to a phenomenon that fascinated me in the research: the 2-week fade.
The 2-week fade is a classic consequence of the scenery trap.
How does that work?
Well, couples go to these beautiful retreats, they feel that rush of inspiration, and more importantly, they get a massive hit of dopamine from the sheer novelty of the environment.
Because the brain loves new things.
Exactly. So they mistake this environmental dopamine high for relationship repair. They come home feeling like everything is fresh and new.
And for about 2 weeks, they ride that wave.
But then the neurobiology betrays them. The brain is an association machine.
An association machine, right?
They fly home, they walk through the front door, and they are instantly hit with visual triggers. They look at the kitchen island, and their brain doesn't see granite.
What does it see?
It sees the exact spot where they had a screaming match about finances 3 years ago.
Oh, wow.
They see the overflowing laundry basket, and it instantly triggers the resentment of unequal household labor.
Because they haven't actually learned any new tools for handling conflict.
Right. So the visual cues of their daily environment immediately reactivate the old, entrenched neural pathways.
It's state-dependent memory. You learned how to hold hands and be sweet in a state of vacation euphoria, but you can't access those feelings when you're back in a state of Tuesday night laundry stress.
That is a perfect way to conceptualize it. The environment changed, but the structural dynamics of the relationship didn't.
Inspiration gave them a temporary burst of energy.
But transformation, which they skipped, is what actually rewires how you interact under stress.
So what does this all mean for the listener? Are we saying retreats are just a scam, a waste of money?
Absolutely not. And it's crucial we clarify this. There is no moral judgment passed on either format.
Okay, good to hear.
Neither one is inherently better than the other. They are just vastly different tools for entirely different jobs. A retreat is an incredibly valuable tool for maintenance.
For connection, encouragement, prevention.
Yes. If you have a solid foundation, a retreat helps keep the house standing strong against the weather of daily life.
But the intensive is for the couple whose foundation is visibly cracked.
The intensive is for the couple who look at each other across the kitchen island and realize, we simply cannot keep going like this. The house is sinking.
So, knowing that neither is inherently better, how do you, listening to this right now, actually diagnose what kind of help your relationship needs?
That's the real question.
If you're sitting in traffic wondering if your marriage is just in a rut or if it's actually in structural danger, how do you know? Let's get into the diagnosis.
Yeah.
Comfort versus confrontation.
This requires a brutal level of self-awareness. It requires stripping away the ego and looking objectively at the state of your connection.
Right, let's break down the practical profiles. A retreat is the play if you are a couple who primarily just want some quality time together.
You're feeling a bit burned out by the kids or the job, and you need refreshment.
Right. Maybe you just feel overly busy, like two ships passing in the night.
You want some spiritual or general encouragement,
Hmm.
and fundamentally, underneath the exhaustion, you have a healthy marriage that just needs some dedicated nurturing.
If that's you, book the retreat immediately. It will be wonderful.
Highly recommend it.
But on the flip side, we have the intensive profile.
An intensive becomes absolutely mandatory if you are dealing with any of the heavy hitters. We're talking about navigating the active fallout of infidelity,
Or chronic emotional distance.
where you feel more like awkward, resentful roommates than spouses.
If you are stuck in a relentless loop of constant conflict.
Or worse, a total communication collapse where silence is taken over.
Yeah. If physical and emotional intimacy has completely vanished.
If there are years of unresolved pain that gets weaponized in every single argument.
Or, I think most critically, if either of you have entered a state of emotional shutdown,
Emotional shutdown is the red alert.
the apathy stage, where you don't even have the energy to fight anymore. I want to dig into that because earlier you said anger is exhausting, but apathy is worse.
It is so much worse.
Why is apathy the final stage?
Because anger, as loud and destructive as it can be, means there is still an expectation.
Oh, that makes sense.
Psychologically, if your partner is angry with you, it means they still care enough about the gap between what they want and what they have to actually fight for it.
The engine is making a terrible noise, but it's still running.
Exactly. Apathy means the engine is dead.
Mm.
Apathy is looking at the massive gap between you and your partner and deciding it is no longer worth the caloric energy to even be mad about it.
It is the absence of hope.
It's profound resignation.
Wow. So if you aren't fighting because you've just given up, you need an intensive.
Immediately. And this raises an important question. Why do couples wait so long to get the right kind of help?
Why do they wait until apathy sets in?
Because human beings consistently choose comfort over confrontation. It is infinitely easier and far more socially acceptable to book a nice vacation to Hawaii than it is to book a clinical counseling intensive.
Because facing the reality that your marriage is in severe, critical trouble is terrifying.
It shatters the image you have of your own life.
It does, but avoiding the truth doesn't change the truth. Ignoring the broken bone doesn't make the bone heal straight.
No, it just makes the eventual limp permanent.
Which brings us to perhaps the most powerful takeaway for you today. I want you to really hear this, whether you are thriving, struggling, or somewhere in between.
This is key.
You cannot heal what you refuse to face.
It's so deceptively simple, but it is absolute truth.
If you keep turning away from the crack in the foundation because looking at it makes you anxious, the crack will only get wider.
Avoidance guarantees stagnation. Confrontation, as painful as it is the only actual path to repair.
So as we wrap up this deep dive, it really boils down to one core question that every couple must ask themselves when looking at the road ahead.
Do we need inspiration or do we need transformation?
Being ruthlessly honest about the answer to that single question can literally save you years of frustration.
Not to mention thousands of wasted dollars on the scenery trap and deepening heartache.
Right. If your marriage just needs a weekend away to breathe, laugh, and forget about the electric bill, that is beautiful.
Go book the retreat.
Enjoy the zip line, drink the chamomile tea, and enjoy the beach. But if your marriage needs intentional, heavy lifting, deep tissue neurological healing work, recognize that.
And we want to remind you that there is absolutely no shame in admitting that a relationship needs deeper clinical attention.
In fact, choosing to face those shadows, choosing to walk into that small room for 4 hours instead of running away to a beach is arguably the bravest thing a human being can do.
Marriages were never designed to just survive on autopilot. The healthy ones, the ones that last decades and still actually have joy and safety in them, they're intentionally built, they're intentionally healed, and they're intentionally protected.
Love is a powerful starting point. It gets you down the aisle. But healed love.
That's the goal.
Healed love is what actually transforms a life.
You know, all of this leaves me with a thought that goes slightly beyond what we've unpacked today.
What's that?
Let's say a couple takes that brave step. They go to the intensives, they sit in the discomfort, they rewire their nervous systems, and they successfully transform their broken relationship. How does that couple eventually transition back to maintenance mode?
Oh, that's a great point.
Does a deeply healed relationship eventually just need a regular fun retreat again? Or does surviving the crucible of an intensive permanently change the way a couple vacations, connects, and experiences joy together.
Like once you've rebuilt the engine, does the way you drive change forever?
Exactly.
Oh, that is a fascinating question to ponder. Does the baseline permanently shift once you know how to truly communicate?
I hope that gives you something to mull over today.
It's definitely something to think about. Thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive. If you found this valuable, or if a specific couple came to mind while you were listening, please share this knowledge with them.
Definitely, Sherry.
Because remember, you can polish the paint all you want, but if you want the car to run, eventually you have to open the hood and get your hands dirty. We'll catch you next time.